Hello and welcome back to Viper Bites and our wildcard weekend preview shows. Now, in this episode, in this video, we are going to look at the 10-7 San Francisco 49ers as they travel to Big D to take on the 12-5 Dallas Cowboys. Let's rewind this one back to the early 90s. Let's get those rivalries going. Let's see some Deion Sanders. Get that popcorn ready for the T.O. Bowl. Okay, the 49ers versus Cowboys game is going to be impossible to predict. I really keep going back and forth who I think is going to win this game. And honestly, I don't know, but maybe I'll talk myself into one team or the other as we preview this entire game. Now, these two teams have not faced each other this season, okay? This is the only matchup on the weekend's docket in which the two teams had not played one another at any point of this season. Now, when we look at what these teams have done, we start with Dak Prescott and his 4,449 passing yards, his 69.8 completion percentage, 37 touchdowns, Cowboy record, 10 interceptions, versus Jimmy Garoppolo and his 3,810 passing yards, 68.3% passing percentage, 20 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Now, this Dallas Cowboys offense goes through the run game to give Dak Prescott time. I don't think Dak Prescott is the quarterback that he can be if that running game is not there. Now, Ezekiel Elliott, he broke 1,000 yards rushing on the season last week with an 87-yard performance against the second stringers, third stringers of the Philadelphia Eagles, finishing the season with 1,002 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he also threw in 287 yards receiving. His backfield mate, Tony Pollard, 719 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and an additional 337 yards in the passing game. Now, there really is 2 running backs for the San Francisco 49ers, but we'll talk about one of them, and that's Elijah Mitchell, 963 rushing yards in 11 games. That's 87.5 per contest. He also had 5 touchdowns and 137 yards receiving. Now, speaking of those receivers, let's talk about how they stack out because there are some good ones in this. We got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. We've got Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, and we've also got a couple pretty good tight ends this year in George Kittle and Dalton Schultz. Now, looking at these numbers, Lamb, 79 catches, 1,102 yards, 6 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, 68 catches, 865 yards, 8 touchdowns. Dalton Schultz, 78 receptions, 808 yards, 6 touchdowns. You know what? For good measure, let's throw in Cedric Wilson, his 45 catches, 602 yards, and his 6 touchdowns. That's 4 players for the Dallas Cowboys who have 6 receiving touchdowns. Now, for the San Francisco 49ers, it all starts and ends basically with Debo Samuel and his 77 receptions, 1,405 yards receiving, and his 6 touchdowns. Wait. He also has 365 rushing yards and 8 more touchdowns. That's 14 touchdowns combined between rushing and receiving. Now, Brandon Ayuk, he's been okay. 56 receptions, 826 yards, 5 touchdowns. George Kittle, 71, 910, and 6. And that was only in 14 games. And you know what? You want some sleeper value? How about Jawan Jennings and his 5 touchdowns? Now let's talk about these 49ers. Debo Samuel, over his last 5 games, 21 catches, 399 yards, 1 receiving touchdown there. He also has 34 rushes for 162 yards and 3 rushing. Okay, let's put this in perspective. He has 6.2 yards per carry on 59 attempts and 18.2 yards per reception on the season. That is absolutely insane. His 780 yak yards is second only to Cooper Kupp. Second only to Cooper Kupp. Okay? He also sits 5th in receiving this year with 1,405 yards. And as hyped as Trevon Diggs has been, I don't think there's anyone who could slow down Debo Samuel. Sure, Diggs has 11 interceptions, but he's also allowing a 55.8 completion percentage along with 16.8 yards per catch. Do the math real quick. Debo Samuel, 18.2 yards per catch. Trevon Diggs allowing 16.8 yards per catch. I think this is an advantage for Debo Samuel, despite what we think Trevon Diggs can and cannot do. Now, Brandon Ayuk has 4 more catches in 4 of the last 5 games, as Kittle has kind of cooled off over that little bit of period there with 8 catches and only 60 yards in the last 3. For San Francisco to win this, they need Week 13 to 15, George Kittle to reappear, where he saw 28 receptions for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, a little bit of an interesting tidbit here is Jimmy Garoppolo has an 8.6 yard per attempt and has the highest yards per completion of any quarterback in the National Football League, and that's 12.7. Okay, that could be a little bit of the Debo factor. Bosa and the 49ers defense will look to find a way to get to Dak Prescott. Bosa, he's been good himself, 15.5 sacks on the season, but the 49ers defense, they rank 22nd in pressure. Now, we want to talk about this Cowboys offense. Dak Prescott, he has been erratic most of the season. He did finish 7th in passing with 4,449 yards, and he sure beat up on teams like the Philadelphia Eagles second stringers and the Washington football team, but his 6 yards per attempt versus the New York Giants in between those two contests leaves little to be desired. Sure, over the last four games, he has 13 touchdowns against 0 interceptions. Again, really tough to get a good feel for this Cowboys team based off what they did last week. Elliott, he looked good against a bunch of backup Eagles, running for 87 yards, 85 for the first time since back in week number 5. In fact, outside of last week, he hadn't had 70 rushing yards in a game since that game against the Giants. Now, we know the Cowboys like to spread the ball around. We talked about those stats on the season, and we all know that Dalton Schultz has risen from the ashes of the tight end position to put together a Pro Bowl type season. They have Lamb, they have Cooper, they have everything you could possibly want. They have the advantage on the outside when you're looking at Emmanuel Mosley, Aubrey Thomas. Quan Williams has been really good inside, so that's going to be a tough matchup. Who's going to be that slot guy? We know Cooper's going to be on the outside, but we know Cedric Wilson and CeeDee Lamb both go in and out of the slot quite frequently. Now, I really think that the player to watch in this game, as I just mentioned, is Cedric Wilson, because he has been able to produce every opportunity that he has been allowed. Go back to Thanksgiving versus Vegas with Lamb and Cooper out, stepped up big time. As soon as Michael Gallup went down there and was lost for the season, he stepped up again. Look, 12 targets last week, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been putting it together since that game in which Michael Gallup had gone down. Now, how do I see this one playing out? Well, this one is too close to call and can go either way. How aggressive the Cowboys front is at attacking quarterbacks, it leaves them susceptible to the run game. 4.5 yards per carry, 112.8 yards per game. With Mitchell and Debo running with this kind of, I don't know how you call it, Elijah Mitchell, Debo Samuel, the misdirection that the 49ers like to put, the aggressiveness of the Cowboys, this really does favor the San Francisco 49ers. So you know what? Give me the 49ers 27-23. Actually, you know what? Hang on. I want to change that again already. This time, I'm going to change it to the Cowboys winning 27-23 because Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, he knows what Kyle Shanahan wants to do, having seen him and him operate that offense in Atlanta when they're both down there. So I'm going to give it to the Cowboys 27-23. Ask me again tomorrow, and I'll probably change my mind once again. Fun fact, if you're still watching this, the winner of this playoff game between the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers, the last 3 times that these two teams have met, the winner has gone on to win the Super Bowl. Just a little food for thought there. Now, more food for thought, head over to fantasypoints.com. Get that subscription today, and make sure to head over to the Vipers Network YouTube channel there. Give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to catch more videos as they keep coming out each and every week.